Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Parkinson's Foundation's program, Mindfulness Mondays. My name is Crista Ellis, and I'm the Community Program Manager for the Florida and Gulf Coast chapters. Thank you for joining us on this Mindful Monday. If you aren't already and are able to, I'd like to invite you to join us on camera and see your Parkinson's community. You can scroll through the tiles and see everyone who is sharing this time and space with us today across the country. Wave hello to your Parkinson's community. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming today. It's so good to see you all. Thank you for coming. During this time of social distancing, we hope that you are able to stay healthy and safe at home. Due to the evolving situation around the COVID-19 outbreak, we are taking every precaution to look after our Parkinson's community. The Parkinson's Foundation is dedicated to engaging and empowering the Parkinson's community. Due to the overwhelming support from the Parkinson's community, our weekly PD Health at Home Wellness and Education online events will be extended. We will be taking a break from Mindfulness Monday for a couple of weeks while we review and rejuvenate our virtual programs. We'll be back on July 6th with a new PD Health at Home schedule that includes Mindfulness Monday. You can still find all the archived PD Health at Home virtual events at parkinson.org/PD Health. As a reminder, your questions can be submitted through the chat function in the black banner on the bottom of your viewing page. We'll do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can during the Q&A portion of today's program. Today's session will be recorded and archived on the Parkinson's Foundation website at parkinson.org/PD Health. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Parkinson's Foundation mission and resources. The Parkinson's Foundation makes life better for people living with Parkinson's disease and their loved ones to advance care and research today until there's a tomorrow without the disease. And everything we do, we build on the energy, experience, and passion of our global Parkinson's community. We provide families with free resources, including our website, parkinson.org, educational books, webinars much like today's program, podcasts, and a hospitalization kit called Aware and Care, and of course, our toll-free Parkinson's helpline, 1-800-4-PD-INFO, which is staffed by Parkinson's specialists. To learn more about our resources and our upcoming virtual events, remember to visit our website at parkinson.org or call our helpline at 1-800-4-PD-INFO. Now it's my pleasure to welcome our guest speaker, Paula Wieckert. Paula Wieckert is a physical therapist at Park Nicollett Methodist Hospital in St. Louis Park, Minnesota, and has been part of their rehabilitation team for 39 years. Appreciating the interplay of mind, body, and spirit and contributing to each person's ability to cope, grow, and heal, she has found mindfulness practices have enhanced both her personal and professional life. Paula, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Crista. I'm really happy to be here. Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us. So let's start with a question that can help me get to know you a little bit. Next slide. So I'm just interested to know how many of you currently have a meditation practice of any kind? Okay, looks like we've got a mixture of people kind of broken up into thirds, which is just great. So today, just would like to tell you a little bit about what I hope we'll do today. We'll start by just talking a little bit about stress and our physical reactions to stress. And then we'll talk about mindfulness and how that may help us in terms of how we react when we find ourselves in stressful situations. And finally, we'll spend a decent amount of time looking at some mindfulness practices that we can do in the midst of our daily activities to help us come back to the present moment and be more fully present to our daily lives. So let's begin with just a short centering practice. And so I'd invite you all, if you're comfortable, to close your eyes. If you'd rather keep your eyes open, perhaps just softening your gaze and looking out maybe towards the floor in front of you. And then feeling your feet firm on the floor, your bottom in the chair, and then sitting upright with your back supported. I want you to feel relaxed and comfortable, so not rigid or stiff. And then resting your hands wherever you feel comfortable. And then bringing your attention to your breathing. It can be helpful to center and come home to ourselves, to take a few deeper, more intentional breaths in. So starting by inhaling deeply, and then slowly exhaling. Inhaling again with a sense of expanding and openness. And exhaling and feeling a sense of letting go, releasing. And then allowing your breath to return to its normal rhythm. And just allowing your attention to rest on your breathing. Aware of the air as it moves in and out. And if you find that your mind wanders, just know that this is perfectly normal. This is what our minds do. And so when you notice that your mind is no longer on the breath, but it's wandered off, just noticing where it's gone. And then without giving yourself a hard time, bring yourself back to your breathing, beginning again. Are you back at an in-breath or an out-breath? And now inviting you to shift your attention and bring to mind a pleasant experience, something that's maybe happened recently, or you can certainly go back into the more distant past. It doesn't have to be anything big, but just a time when you felt relaxed and at ease, maybe joyful or peaceful. Maybe it was a time when you were enjoying the colors and the beauty in your garden, or when you were able to sit with that first morning cup of coffee. Perhaps it's a gesture of unexpected kindness from someone. Or maybe a time when you felt really connected with a loved one, a friend, even a pet. But just choosing one, hopefully you have many to choose from, but just picking one right now and bringing that memory back as clearly as possible. And then just seeing if you can identify what were the emotions you were feeling in the midst of that pleasant experience. What were some of the thoughts you had, either back then or now as you reflect back about this experience? And finally, can you get in touch with what sensations in your body were present in the midst of that experience? And now if you had your eyes closed, you can open them, come back to the group. And next slide. So here's a question. Were you aware of any body sensations as you reflected on that pleasant experience? looks like a fair number of you were definitely aware of some sensations. So if you answered yes, let's go to the next question. If you answered yes, what were you aware of? Here's just a list of a few options. It's certainly not all encompassing, but either see if these are appropriate or if there are others. You can share those in the chat if you care to. Looks like a lot of people felt relaxed and at ease. Some feelings of expansiveness. Wonderful. All right. Next slide. So one thing to keep in mind, often with pleasant experiences, our sensations in the body can be fairly subtle. And it's almost as though there's just an absence of the feelings that we have when we're stressed. Our bodies are really great stress detectors if we're paying attention. And so here's the next question. Next slide. Where do you tend to feel stress in your body? We often have a very default mode that we go into when we're stressed. Again, this is not an all-encompassing list, but you may see some that resonate for you. Okay. A lot of people feel muscle tension, fair number, shallow breathing, upset stomach. Wonderful. Okay, my go-to are tensions in my shoulders, feeling an increased heart rate, and often an upset stomach. Next slide. So one of the things that's happening there when we're feeling all those things, our shallow breathing, our increased heart rate, the muscle tension, those are all part of the fight or flight response that's part of our sympathetic nervous system that gets triggered when we're feeling threatened in some way. It evolved as a way for us to respond to help survive in the midst of life-threatening events. Now today, most often those things that stress us are not always life-threatening, but we still can get triggered and have that same sort of response that's brought up for us. And so in addition to the life-threatening things, routine stressors that many of us deal with on a day-to-day basis can be anything from, you know, getting stuck in heavy traffic or dealing with illness, financial strains, relationship issues. If you need to rely on a caregiver to help you with your daily activities, that at times can add stress. Or if mobility is an issue for you. The list can go on and on, but many of us are very familiar with any number of those. And then in addition, you know, more recently, we're dealing with all the consequences of the coronavirus and the stresses that has brought, the social distancing, the level of uncertainty around when is this going to end, anxiety around our health and our concerns for our family. I mean, the list can go on and on. And then you add in more recent events of the last few weeks with more social unrest and just really it bringing up a lot of difficult emotions for so many people. So it's not uncommon for many of us to be feeling somewhat overwhelmed with all the stressors that are present. And the problem is when we're stressed, the tendency is that we tend to react more automatically or habitually on autopilot. We have some very well-worn paths, kind of our default mode of responding. When this happens, this is how I react. So just for example, if I'm cut off by somebody in traffic, you know, maybe my response is to slam my hand on the steering wheel and to yell something very unpleasant towards them. Or if I'm watching the news in the evening and I'm finding myself getting more and more agitated, worried, and feeling really at a sense of dis-ease, I can just kind of feel the tension building and almost my blood pressure rising. So those are kind of those automatic responses that we have. Next slide. So in contrast to these things that happen when we're stressed, which really to just say that whole system evolved to be preferably intermittent and brief, get us through what we're being threatened by, and then we have the chance to come back and recover. But the problem is today, so many of us are walking around with sort of this low grade stress, or maybe not so low grade stress, that's really causing us to be having the stress hormones just coursing through our bodies and agitated thoughts and feelings coming up. And over time, that can really take a toll on our health and overall well-being. So the good news is that there is the other side of the nervous system called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is what kicks in when you're feeling relaxed and at ease. So that's where you were, hopefully, when you were recalling the memory of your pleasant event. And so often people feel like, oh, I can only get to that sensation if I can take a vacation. Or if you're working, you may feel like, oh, if I can just get to the weekend, then I can maybe carve out some space to relax and have some greater sense of ease. But truly, we have far more ability to access that than just going on vacation or getting to the weekend. And it starts with pausing, stopping all our doing, and really seeing if we can bring our attention back to the moment and what's going on for us. So tuning into those sensations in our bodies and the emotions that are coming up for us, as well as the thoughts that are showing up in our minds. And in particular, coming back to our breathing, because that slow, deep, more intentional breath that you took at the beginning is our doorway into this parasympathetic nervous system. It helps to activate the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that gets the parasympathetic system going, and it in turn then helps to bring us back to that sense of equilibrium and balance. Mindfulness practices, both formal and informal, are ways in which we can also access the parasympathetic nervous system. All of those practices have, as part of them, bringing our awareness to our breathing and what's happening in our body. And so that's what we hope to talk about today. And while formal practices are extremely valuable in terms of doing a sitting meditation, a walking meditation, or a formal yoga practice, but even if you never choose to do any of those formal practices, there are many things that you can do on an informal basis that can really help bring you back into that sense of balance. Next slide. I love this quote from Viktor Frankl. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he says, "Between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. And in this space lies our power and our freedom." And again, he's speaking to that pause, that ability to stop the doing, come back to being present to what's going on for us. And in that space is where we have the opportunity to make a wiser choice in terms of what serves us in the midst of a stressful situation. So when I'm cut off in traffic, rather than slamming my hand on the steering wheel and yelling, or maybe I still even do that. I can't catch myself quick enough to stop that. But when I can realize, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Maybe I can make a different choice and decide that, you know what? I wonder what's going on for that person who just cut me off. Maybe they're really urgently trying to get home to somebody who needs them. But regardless of their motivation, maybe I could just choose to wish them well. May you be safe. May you be happy. And the difference of the state of my mind and body, if I can wish somebody well, as opposed to all the tension that develops when I'm angry and slamming on the steering wheel, which doesn't help anyways, it really can be helpful as we can pause. Same thing with listening to the news. We need to be informed. We need to stay on top of what's going on. But when we can pause, we can also decide, maybe I need to limit how much I'm taking in on any given day. This isn't serving me to keep hearing this stuff over and over again. And so maybe I can go looking for good news. or maybe just choose something totally different. Turn the television off or the radio or whatever it is, and just get out in nature or do something that takes care of me. Next slide. So finally, in terms of, just discussing the mindfulness, just wanted to say that there is more and more research that's being done now in terms of the impact of mindfulness on our bodies and brains. And so they are finding that people that are choosing to incorporate mindfulness into their lives are finding that they're able to be less scattered and distracted, and by comparison then better able to focus. There's the ability to improve our reasoning, memory, and problem-solving skills, as well as the ability to just take a broader, more holistic perspective on things. It increases our empathy and compassion. It decreases our reactivity, and it increases our immune system functioning, something that's certainly critical right now. It decreases inflammation in the body. And it's actually been shown on fMRI scans to actually make physical changes in the brain itself. So that those areas in the brain that are associated with emotional reactivity tend to shrink in those people that are consistent meditators. And the areas in the brain that are associated with the increased memory, problem solving, reasoning, and perspective taking are enhanced and grow larger. And so for those of us in this Western culture that appreciate evidence for the things that we do, this can be reassuring that there are some really valuable things that mindfulness can bring. Next slide. So now we're going to talk about some of these in-the-moment practices that may be really helpful to you in the midst of your day. And the first one is the STOP practice. STOP is an acronym. It's also called purposeful pause. And so the idea is that it can help increase your awareness of what's going on for you. It can help you come back to yourself and what's going on in your life at any moment. And it allows you to gain some greater perspective and respond more effectively. And while it can be done at any point during the day, I mean, it particularly can come in handy if you're finding that you're aware that your stress is increasing. And so the S stands for the stop or pausing, stopping the doing. T is for taking a breath, or 2 or 3. O is for observing or opening with kindness and curiosity. And that's really key to bring an attitude of interest and friendliness to what you're observing. But it's, taking the time like we did in that exercise of looking at a pleasant event, tuning into what are the sensations that are there in my body? What are the thoughts that are showing up? Looking at the emotions we're feeling and identifying those. And then the P is for proceeding, moving on into your day with hopefully something that can support you. And determining based on the circumstances what that might be. If you're in a heated discussion with somebody, it's maybe that you're coming to the realization that you need to take a break and kind of think things through, and that you're not ready to have that conversation. Or maybe it's that you just want to stop and rest. Or maybe you need to call a friend. Depending on the circumstances will hopefully help you determine what might be most helpful. Or if you need to, pause again. So let's maybe try this just briefly. So again, taking your seat and feeling your feet on the floor. You can close your eyes if that's helpful. And just, here we are, stopping or pausing. And let's take 2 mindful breaths. Just inhaling. And then letting the air go. And once again, taking a deep breath in. And then exhaling and releasing. And then bringing your attention to observe what's going on for you. Again, bringing a sense of kindness, curiosity, and interest. Are there any sensations in your body that you're aware of right now? Is there any tension you're feeling? Any discomfort? And as you bring your attention there, can you potentially soften and release to the extent that you're able? And then how about thoughts? What's showing up there? And here's an opportunity, especially if you're in the midst of something stressful, where you can question, is what I'm thinking even true? Is it the whole picture? Is it helpful? We can sometimes give our thoughts way too much power if we're not paying attention. And then any emotion that's present. It's been found to be helpful, especially with difficult emotions, to name what you're feeling, anger or frustration or agitation. And in the naming can be found some dissipation of some of the energy that you may be feeling around that. And then the P is proceed. Again, seeing if you could name something that would support you as you move forward into your day. Okay, let me come back. I'll just say that I teach mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is an 8-week class. And one of the things that I hear from my students on a very regular basis is that this practice in particular has been extremely helpful to them to just bring them back out of autopilot or out of those habitual reactions that we have, and really allow them to come back and be more present, and therefore then respond more wisely to what's going on for them. Next slide. So another thing that we can do in the moment is when we're identifying that we're feeling in some way uncomfortable, that we're stressed, that we're just not at ease, is to convey some gesture of kindness and care towards ourselves. So often we can be pretty hard on ourselves. And when we pay attention, we start to notice all the negative self-talk that happens and the kind of the judgmental, critical approach we can take to ourselves. Things that we would never say to a dear friend that would be experiencing the same difficult situations and emotions that we're going through. And so to catch ourselves doing that and instead offer the care that we would give to someone else, one thing you can do is really a physical gesture of, and you can determine what works well for you, but one that's simple and powerful is one or both hands to your heart in a very kind and gentle way, to just express, your concern for yourself, your care. And you can also choose to either say out loud or just quietly inside, some statement of care, I know this is hard and I'm here for you, or I'm not leaving and I love you, whatever feels right for you. In addition to a hand to the heart, some people find just a gentle touch of their face can be helpful, or giving yourself a hug. You know how good a hug feels that comes from someone else, but can we also offer that to ourselves? Another way of conveying self-compassion to ourselves is to also just remember a time when you felt safe, loved, or cared for. And so to see if you might incorporate some of that in your day might be very helpful. Next slide. So another thing that can be really a good exercise for all of us is to be mindful of the good. And in part because our brains have evolved to have what's called a negativity bias. And that happened as a part of that whole fight, flight, or freeze response as a way to help us survive. And so we became very alert and aware of anything around us that felt threatening. But while we generally aren't dealing with truly life-threatening events, we are still very much programmed in responding far more readily to what's negative and going wrong in our lives. And so the idea of being mindful of the good is, can we shift some of that attention in the other direction? Some of the key principles of awakening greater well-being and happiness are to see goodness in ourselves, number one, and then also to look for it in others and in the world around us. And then the key thing here is spending time savoring that good. That's what we did in the original exercise we did at the beginning, you know, to take more time to take in what are we actually finding in terms of body sensations. What are the emotions, the thoughts? All that helps to just spend a little more time with those good things. Rick Hansen, he's a neuropsychologist, has a saying that we're like Velcro for the negative things in our lives. So they stick with us very readily, but we're like Teflon for the good things. And so they, you know, we may experience them, be aware of them, but they slide on by very easily. So in taking extra time to savor them, we are taking time to really sort of take them in more fully and incorporate them in our memories as well. You've maybe heard the term neurons that fire together, wire together. And that's again, just saying that we can have these well-worn paths that are associated with that negativity bias, but we have the ability to change those pathways. And as we focus more on the good, those pathways that allow us to see the good get strengthened. Next slide. So there are many practices that could be done around looking for good things, but I'll just bring up this one in part because this one has some research behind it. And it's called 3 Good Things. So the research has shown that people who tried this practice for just 1 week were found to be happier and less depressed 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months later. And that's fairly significant, I'd say. So again, it starts by noticing what goes right in our lives in addition to what goes wrong. And even on a bad day, to recognize that there are also good things that are there, however small. Next slide. So the practice itself is every night before you go to bed, look back over your day and see if you can identify 3 good things that happened. Things that went well, things that you enjoyed or were grateful for. And just like we did before, it doesn't have to be anything big. But whatever you identify, I feel one of the key things in this practice is to write them down. And I think this is just another way where we take it in more fully, to take the time to journal it. And then it gives us something to look back on as well. And then to also think about, with each of those good things, why did it happen? And why did you feel good about it? What was your role in the experience? It maybe was just that you were awake and alert enough to notice, and that's wonderful. Or maybe you took an active role in making something good happen. But so this is a practice, you know, you could decide to try, test out for a week and see how it goes. I know the whole day hasn't passed yet, but let's just pause for a moment and have you look back over the day so far and just see what comes to mind. See if you can come up with 1 good thing. So just pausing here for a few moments. And then if you've identified something, think about why it happened and why you feel good about it. And then you can come back. I can tell you, for me, one simple good thing for me is that they're doing road construction outside our house. And I even went out and told the workers this morning, I said, I'm doing this Zoom presentation today, and I really hope that you can avoid working right in front of our house from 12 to 1. And it's been quiet, so hopefully you're not hearing too much noise. Okay, next slide. So here again is another way you can be waking up to ways to be mindful, just in the very ordinary day-to-day things, you know, we all do every day. And these are things that, because they're so routine, we tend to overlook the value that there can be in really paying attention. And they truly can be really a comforting and a source of ease for us if we're noticing. So next slide. I'm going to throw out some options, but hopefully this is just going to get you thinking of more ways that you might be able to try to be more mindful as you move through your day. So starting out with the first one there, as you wake up, rather than just launching into your day, can you either while you're still lying in bed or sitting on the edge of the bed before you actually start to move, can you take 2 or 3 deep breaths and then see if you can set an intention for how you want to show up for your day and the people that you'll interact with. Another one can be, can we be really present for a few moments when we're in the shower? This can be such a lovely experience if we're really there. But so often with being in the shower or any daily activity, it's so easy to be physically present, but our minds can already be launched off into wherever the day is going to take us, or maybe we're back in the past, rehashing what's gone on the day before, so that we're really not there to feel how wonderful it is to have the warm water on your skin, to just feel what it feels like to be lathering up the soap or the shampoo. And so I would invite you to experiment with that. Another one that we're doing an awful lot of these days is washing our hands. And so there again, can we really be present to the feel of the water and the soap on our hands and the touch of one hand against the other? Maybe even taking an opportunity to be grateful for all the things our hands do for us over the course of a day. Washing the dishes would be another one. Eating mindfully can be a really wonderful experience. This is one I struggle mightily with. I'm very much drawn to either reading the paper or in some way distracting myself. But when you can take the time, even with a few bites of food, to really taste the flavors, to appreciate the colors, and this in particular, as we're starting to get into fresh fruits and vegetables, can be really lovely. The different textures that you're feeling. And then even broadening your experience to look at, going back over the whole process of how that food got to your plate. The seeds that got planted, and the sun and the rain that nurtured them, and the farmer that tended them, and the truckers that brought them to the stores, and then all the workers at the stores that laid them out there for you to buy. Just expanding our awareness around all of that can change our experience of eating. Taking a mindful walk can be lovely, in particular if you can get outside. So tuning into your senses one at a time, maybe spending some time listening to what you're hearing, and then shifting and looking around you and seeing the colors. Maybe looking up instead of down and noticing what's there. And then also the sensation of touch. So feeling both the breeze on your face with the sun and its warmth, feeling your feet as they hit the ground each time. And as you greet a family member, friend, or pet even, can we really be present to them? Can we see them and more fully listen to them with full attention? Can be really helpful. Next slide. And then there's an opportunity to pause and appreciate something in nature. And this can be truly lovely. And I think most of us resonate with how much healing can come from just having time out in nature. So looking at something in your garden, or even standing at a window and looking out and seeing the sky and the trees, can really be an opportunity to get an increased sense of spaciousness when we're feeling confined and restless. I think we maybe have a video that I took in my garden yesterday actually, that was just really fun. You can go, yes. It was just incredible. The size of that bee was amazing, I thought. And it's so often the case that when we can pause and be still when we're out in nature, it's amazing what you can see if you're just, taking time to notice. And the longer you stay in one place, the more things that become apparent. And so that can just be a really lovely experience. Another option in the day-to-day is just making the conscious choice to shift our focus off ourselves and extend out our desire to offer kindness and care to other people in our lives. And so something as simple as deciding that we're going to set an intention to do some simple act of kindness each day. Could be writing a letter, a phone call to someone that we know might be hurting, maybe offering a compliment or an expression of appreciation to someone. I mean, there's so many ways that we can reach out that doesn't take much time, and also not only benefits the person we're offering the kindness to, but we feel better when we do that as well. And then setting an intention to look for the good in people and situations. Again, choosing to look for that good and the silver linings can be wonderful. Next slide. No, yeah, oh, next one again. All right. One of the things that's, I think many people have found that when we've had to do this stay at home and distance ourselves from folks, that at times we've gotten less active. You know, we're feeling more limited in terms of getting out and going places where we maybe normally exercise. But when we're starting to feel restless or sluggish, while a full yoga practice or doing qigong or other exercise routines can be really wonderful, but just really even taking a few moments to move mindfully can just really change our energy a bit. And so let's maybe scoot my chair back a little. I'm just going to show you, and I hope you'll join me on two qigong movements that I think are kind of fun, and in part they're enjoyable because this qigong practice has they call each of the movements a picture, and so they have a name. And so want to invite you to try this, but be very mindful of your own body and what feels good to you, and so don't move in a way that would be uncomfortable. But this first one is called Fly Like an Eagle. And so you just start with your arms at your sides, sit up tall, and then you're just, as you inhale, you're going to bring your arms up, fly like an eagle, hopefully inhaling here and then exhaling and bringing your arms back down. And one more time, inhaling and bringing your arms up and exhaling and coming down. And you could do that multiple times. Another one that's fun, I think, and I love the name of it, and it's called Opening Your Heart to What Is. And this one, you start with your arms down at your sides, and you inhale and bring your arms out in front of you, and then open out to the side, and then bring them back in and down. And so again, trying it, coming up, out, in, and down. And so obviously that's a very short little practice, but you can, if you have ways that you can move and they feel good to you, just taking a break, stepping away from your screens, not right now, but just knowing that that's an option to sort of get your energy moving a bit. Next slide. And finally, within your daily activities, taking a time to identify what nurtures you. And by that, I mean, what are those things that you can do that lift your mood, that increase your energy, or that help you feel calm and centered? And it can be really helpful to write those down and have it as something to reference when you're feeling off or ill at ease. It's just a way of taking care of you. When we're depleted and running on empty, we really don't have a lot we can bring to other people. And so when we can fill ourselves back up by doing some things that take care of us, that can be really helpful. And so I've just shared for you a list of some of the things that I find are nurturing for me. And that can be, listening to upbeat and inspiring music, that usually also encompasses singing and dancing for me when I have the chance. Connecting with friends and family. Taking time outside, either to sit and be still or to take a walk. Taking a bath. Now that's one I tend to do more in the winter, but that also I find soothing and cares for me. Watching movies that make me laugh or that touch my heart. And doing something for somebody else. So I'd encourage you, if you care to, you can share some of the things that nurture you in the chat, or just I'd also encourage you to see if you might want to make a list at some point. Next slide. So here's a question for you. Have you identified from any of these in the moment practices that we've talked about today, are there any that you feel like you might be interested in trying? You can pick more than one. Okay, quite a few with mindful walk and the stop practice. Okay, now we got some more. And all of these are just offered as a way of to get you thinking and maybe being creative about what might help you be more mindful as you move through your life. Nice, really a nice mix as you've all responded. Thank you for that. Okay, next slide. So in closing, I just want to say that even taking small opportunities to find ways to be more calm and at ease are seeds that really will keep growing as you continue to practice. And when you can choose to be more present for what arises in your life, you're able to open your heart and mind to really be more there for your life as it's unfolding. And in turn, that really allows you to bring your most caring and wise self to the people and the situations that unfold and that are your life. And so finally, I would like to share with you a poem that a really dear friend of mine wrote earlier this spring as we were moving into the stay-at-home situation here in Minnesota and needing to be social distancing. And I think so much of what she talks about here is still so beautifully relevant to just the idea of being present to those ordinary things in our lives, but yet also not denying that there are challenges and hardships that we're going through. And so here we go. It's called Woven Together. As I venture out to walk this morning, more grateful for the gift of breath than I can describe, I make a promise to carefully tuck inside my jacket each heartfelt greeting, all the gestures of kindness, every show of solidarity. I also make sure to gather the laughter from the children as they skip by, as well as the spirit exchanges between walking partners, and even the exuberant bounding of so many happy dogs. Of course, I can't forget to include each hopeful sign of spring, buds and birds and breezes showing off so much that my jacket and my heart nearly burst from all the goodness. As I return home to nestle in, I can hardly wait to rush to my table, throw open my jacket, and let that great flood of sunshine come tumbling out. All the sights and sounds of this glorious day, to which I bow in awed reverence, and then begin to prayerfully weave each precious piece into what soon becomes a blanket of hope, of healing, of well-being, that I will keep close at hand to gently cradle every story of unspeakable pain and loss I hear today, so it can be enfolded by the warmth, embraced by the light, and blessed by the love of our caring community. Thank you so much.
That was beautiful, Paula. Thank you so much for your time and your energy, and your experience today. I really appreciate your guidance.
My pleasure.
We've had an overwhelming response of questions, so thank you all for providing us some very thoughtful questions to ask Paula. Paula, the first question: when relaxing or meditating, you always breathe in through your nose. Does it matter if you exhale through your nose or mouth?
I think it can be either, and really what you're most comfortable with, because while the diaphragmatic breathing, that we talk about is intended more so to be in through the nose, maybe out through the mouth. But when you're meditating, the idea is to be with your breath as it is and not to feel like you have to change it or manipulate it somehow. So I would say whatever you're most comfortable with is what you should stick with.
Great, thank you. That's an ideal response for me.
Good.
Second question: as someone who is more analytical, I don't seem to gain a benefit from these activities, even though I've tried numerous times. Is that usual, or am I an outlier? Can career choice affect the ability to respond to mindfulness exercises?
I don't know that it's unusual, but I guess I would encourage you to continue to explore what might serve you well. And certainly mindfulness practices are not the only ways that we can really enhance our sense of well-being. There's so many things like prayer and being with others. I mean, the resources and choices that serve you. Journaling can be another one, but really trying to determine what might serve you well. In terms of the career choice, I mean, I think we all bring our personalities and our different preferences. The one thing in the class that I teach, the thing that we challenge folks with is, as we introduce a variety of mindfulness practices over 8 weeks, we ask the people practice them and show up to do them whether they like them or not. And part of the opportunity there is both to experience them all, and then at the very end, you get to decide what, if any, of this serves you well. But all of them, like I found, there were some practices I gravitated to more than others, but over the course of my life, as different circumstances change, things that I didn't particularly enjoy at one point suddenly felt very, very valuable. And so again, the more exposure you have and the willingness you have to try some of these things, you're at least aware of them then, and maybe at another point in time in your life, they might be of value. So.
Thank you, Paula.
Yeah.
Question number 3. We would like some tips on how we can transition to a calm state of mind in the face of pandemic that is causing anxiety.
Well, I mean, hopefully maybe out of some of these practices that we've talked about today, you might find some help. And all of this, I want to reinforce the fact that it isn't about trying to get rid of anything that you're feeling. So if you're feeling anxious, if you're, feeling just, restless, whatever it may be, you really want to honor whatever your experience is. And again, can we bring some kindness and care to what it is we're experiencing, identifying what's going on, and then finding what does serve us, and asking ourselves, what do I need right now? Can be a really helpful question. But again, really trying to bring that self-compassion towards ourselves instead of the tendency that we so often have to be hard on ourselves. So I guess I would say, again, can you be with the uncomfortable emotions that you may be experiencing and allow for them to be there, but then also seeing if there's something that you can do to take care of yourself and identifying what that might be.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Question 4, are there stress symptoms like increased depression or apathy that overlap with medication side effects? How do I know which it is?
You know, I guess I would encourage you to be talking with your medical team to help you sort that out. Certainly these mindfulness practices have been shown to help, you know, deal with depression and anxiety and those sorts of things, but it's not to say that they're a replacement for whatever medical treatment might also be needed. And so I would definitely encourage you to have that conversation with your medical team.
Thanks, Paula.
Yeah.
And is there any way to mitigate down days? And I think this individual is meaning, you know, days when you're feeling down, not so good about yourself. Are there ways we can mitigate those days?
Well, you know, again, obviously we're at a time when I think all of us are experiencing ups and downs day to day. And so to again, be very kind and gentle with yourself as you're experiencing that. But because of that whole negativity bias, you know, it is, the invitation is there to say, you know, can we just start looking for more good that's also there and finding ways that feel good for you to do that. But like I had a friend who decided after we talked about this in one of my classes, she decided that every day she was going to take a picture with her phone of something that delighted her. And she found that, you know, just in approaching each day, knowing that she was just sort of anticipating what was going to show up today that was going to delight her, just had her meet her day with a little different attitude and energy. So, I mean, that's just one idea in addition to, you know, the 3 good things or doing a gratitude journal or any of the things that you might find are helpful to shift your focus to what maybe is positive and good in your life as well.
I love that. Thank you so much. Time for just one more question.
Right.
Are there other ways for us to stay connected without physically meeting our friends or family?
Other ways to stay connected. Well, it looks like all of you that are here are on Zoom, so I'm hoping you're taking advantage of that. I still feel like those good old-fashioned phone calls are pretty good as well. And you know what I think so many of us have gotten away from is writing a letter. I mean, how fun is it to get a letter in the mail instead of just all the junk mail? So, you know, initiating that, and it doesn't have to be lengthy. It could be maybe choosing to thank somebody for how they've, you know, been important in your life, or but you know, I mean, those are some ideas, but really trying to get creative and maybe talking to other family members or friends about if they have ideas too on how you might stay connected. So that's just a couple things. But.
Great. Thank you, Paula. And, you know, a huge thanks and, you know, sincere feelings of gratitude for you today and sharing your time and your knowledge with us. So for everyone who's on camera, if you could give her a round of applause virtually, either with your hands or you can use the reactions function on the screen. There it is. Thank you so much, Paula. And I want to thank you all for joining us today on this Mindful Monday, you know, taking the time to explore mindfulness, a discipline of mindfulness, and learning new ways on how we can be creative to cope with this unique time for us all. A couple of announcements to make. I would like to invite you all to join us for tomorrow's expert briefing, where we will be exploring how using physical medicine may help to reduce pain associated with Parkinson's disease. So you can learn more at parkinson.org/PD Health. We are staying connected with our local communities through Moving Day, a walk for Parkinson's disease. And Moving Day helps support Parkinson's research and local wellness programs. You can find a walk near you, either in person or virtually, and register at movingdaywalk.org. Now I want to just say thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. I'd love to invite you just once more to join us on camera and see your Parkinson's community. We actually have people here today across the country, even some from across the globe. So see people, see your peers with Parkinson's in this moment, in this space together during this unique time, learning and educating and empowering ourselves. So wave hello to your Parkinson's community, wave goodbye, and we will see you for our rejuvenated Mindfulness Monday series on July 6th. So mark your calendar, July 6th, and we will see you all next month. And Paula, thank you so much for your time. It's been a joy seeing you all, and we'll see you on July 6th. Thank you. Bye-bye.